The problem with understanding the Battle of Thermopylae is that, I don't know, I personally, and I think a lot of us who study history tend to emphasize land battles. However, there was a sea battle that was fought in conjunction with the land battle of Thermopylae. And without understanding that, Thermopylae doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It looks like a fool's errand and a suicide mission. So in order to understand it, I'm referring to The History of the Art of War, Chapter 4, Volume 1, Chapter 4 by Hans Delbruck. And he explains it this way, and I'll try to use this map to help illustrate his conjectures. So the Persians are invading by land here, and they also have a fleet that's coming down the coastline to support their land army. The Greeks are coming up from the south. And the Greeks have the advantage of terrain. They can decide where they want to meet the Persians. The Persians are marching this way, okay? The Greeks are marching from the south. Quoting the book, the logical idea of the Greeks was, first of all, to block from the approaching enemy land army the passes that in only a few places lead from the north over the mountains into Greece proper. The first, more northerly one, the Tempe Pass, that's right here. This is the Tempe River, and this is the pass near Mount Ossa. Okay, so you come down this road and through here. To quote the book again, the Tempe Pass was given up, however, since it was recognized that there were other passes farther inland, and furthermore, a few of the peoples on this side of the pass had already allied themselves with the Persians. So this was given up basically because there were some city-states down here. If the Greeks committed their entire force to holding this pass, they had potentially enemies in the rear who could either attack them from the rear or could betray them to the Persians, and the Persians could march further inland and find passes here in which to enter Thessaly and descend upon Greece. So the Tempe Pass up here was given up. To quote the book again, the second pass, the second one, is the pass at Thermopylae. Here's Thermopylae right here. Between Mount Oeta, here's Mount Oeta, and the sea. So here's the ocean, or the sea, I should say, as the Malian Gulf comes inland here. So there's the narrow pass where that magnifying glass of the minus is. Between Mount Oeta and the sea, which was occupied by an army under the command of Leonidas. And then at this point, he talks about, it says, at this point, there arises the general question whether this, in fact, is the best way to utilize a mountain chain for the defense of the country, and whether the Greeks possessed an insight into certain laws governing strategic use of mountains and stemming from the nature of warfare. Now that I will illustrate in another video. However, once we talk about that, we need to talk about this. Another account has it that Themistocles, whom the Athenians chose as general, wanted from the very start to renounce any kind of defense by land and as far as possible oppose the Persians with the fleet. That would in fact have been the best plan at the time. This is according to Hans Delbruck. Under any circumstances, sooner or later there had to be a sea battle. If they succeeded in defeating the Persian fleet, they would thereby have created more favorable chances for the decision by land. A larger number of men from the ship's crews could go ashore, don hoplite equipment, and reinforce the land army, and the Persians in their strategic maneuvers would no longer have an alternative, a detour by water. Okay, so here's the crux of the argument that's being put forward in this treatise. Here's Thermopylae. Here's Mount Oeta. So the Greeks are going to have an army here. Now, the 300 Spartans and other members of the army are going to occupy this pass. Now, this is not the entire force. And the reason why is because at the same time, here at Artemisium, at this narrow pass, this channel, the combined Greek fleet under the command of the Athenians, under Themistocles, is going to fight the Persians. You can see right here the strategic implications. Okay, if the land army of the Persians is here, and the Greek army is occupying this pass, they can hold off the army for a few days while this sea battle takes place. If this sea battle is victorious to the Greeks, the Persian army the Persian fleet is scattered, then the soldiers that are and the crew on this that are in the Greek fleet can sail down here, disembark, or even like disembark up here and take the Persians by the rear, or they can disembark here, allow the Persians to come through, fight them on the plain. So is a greater chance that their army is going to succeed. This is the main battle. The main battle is the fleet battle. The pass at Thermopylae being held is a holding action to allow the fleet battle to take place. Artemisium is really where the Greeks want there to be a decisive battle. As it turns out, it's kind of a draw. There's 3 days in which fighting takes place, and the Greeks end up withdrawing down the Euboic Gulf here. And as they withdraw down the Gulf, they leave the pass Thermopylae uncovered. So basically, the stand at Thermopylae becomes a holding action to allow the remainder of the Greek army to retreat. So the fleet retreats down here, and the Greek army retreats as well. The problem is, since that battle was lost strategically, the Persian army is now able to enter Attica, which is where Athens is. And the Athenians basically have given up their city because the next place where they can fight is going to be at Salamis, which is another narrow strait. Unfortunately, it is to the west and south of Athens, and so Athens has to be abandoned. That's why the Athenians wanted to fight this battle here at Artemisium, because there was a greater chance that they would not have to abandon their city if they lost. But unfortunately, it wasn't decisive. So it wasn't really the land battle that was the thing that this is the battle that everybody focuses on, because there's this great last stand or bold stand of 300 warriors holding off a vast army. There's some difficulties with that as well. But even if that's the case, and it's really a holding action for the fleet. So that's how we need to understand Thermopylae. Thermopylae, in conjunction with the naval battle of Artemisium that happened simultaneously, that puts it in perspective. So we're not just looking at a very small number of Greeks challenging a vast number of Persians. We're looking at a fairly equal naval battle. And we'll talk about this in a subsequent video as well, how the numbers play out, because the numbers have been exaggerated. But the naval battle was probably fairly equal, but it was also probably in favor of the Persians because they had better sailors at this point than the Athenians. The Athenians still are rather rudimentary sailors. I'm getting into this too much, but the battle was actually fought by soldiers on boats as opposed to experienced sailors, whereas the Persians had experienced Phoenician sailors who were conducting their battle. So, in any rate, Battle of Artemisium was a draw, which ends up being a strategic loss. They retreat. The land army has to retreat as well. So, Thermopylae is actually a holding action. Artemisium was the main battle. Once we understand this puts the events at Thermopylae into a much more believable perspective. At least that's the conjecture in Hans Delbruck. I invite you to put your thoughts down in the comments below, and we can discuss this further.